Check. Please. It's in the mail. Okay. We have Pierre coming up. Pierre is in. Turn that down. Pierre is in Camrose, Alberta. Smith? What the heck is Smith doing? Premier of Alberta Smith. Pardon my vulgarity. Premier of Alberta. She's doing. She has a Northern 2 proposals apparently exclusive from CBC. They're saying. So they announced today from Alberta. Hello. They announced today that they're going to have a ban. They're going to continue the ban in BC. So the northern oil ban, ships, that's going to continue. So they have to have a southern route. So if there's just 2 northern routes, it's already, They said $10 billion, Carney, was said with EB, he's going to spend on the Vancouver port to speed things up, get exports. It's on the export side of it, which is pretty good. Pierre's speaking in about 12 minutes. He's a politician. It's a big ish. But Carney spoke earlier with EB, and they said multi-billion dollars. I think it was light on exact details, except the Vancouver port, which is $10 billion. And the oil ban is going to continue, the shipping oil ban in the northern coast. So that's definitely, they're both staying. That's going to be a thing, and that's going to be a thing. Also, they alluded to mines and resources coming out of BC, and of course the connection with BC to Asia. They did also mention natural gas in this thing, and there's a bunch of questions and answers. So I'm going to put these two. These two politicians on. Carney had a big, major mistake there with EB, the bailing out of, and then I think they were concerned that if the market in Vancouver completely crashes, it's not a good, stable fall. It won't be a controlled fall. It'll be like that Top Gun fall, you know what I mean? And they're all shook up, and everyone will be. It won't be a great thing, It could be a problem. So that I understand why they were going into it. It was not communicated very well, and I don't know if you could communicate that very well. It's near impossible to. It would be better to leave that to another government. So that was a big slip. Then there's talking about energy, the energy mix today, and getting resources back on. This is a much better on target messaging we see today. Just let me find it up. And there we go.
Good morning, everyone. This is a historic day. And yesterday, across this great land, we were celebrating Canada Day, and today we're celebrating Canada Strong Day. Because in a more dangerous and divided world, our strategy has been and continues to be to focus on what we can control, building our strength here at home and diversifying our partnerships abroad. And today, a series of initiatives we're going to announce anchored here in British Columbia. We will catalyze through these initiatives over $200 billion in new investment, while advancing our trade agenda across Asia. In all cases, British Columbia is the linchpin, the gateway to a more prosperous, more sustainable, and a more inclusive Canada. And I want to thank you, Premier Eby, for your leadership in making this possible, and that of your colleagues who are here this morning. Le monde devenu plus dangereux.
The world has become a more dangerous and divided place. The global trading system is undergoing profound change. And now, we are facing an energy crisis on 3 fronts: the cost of living, security, and climate change. The good news is that Canada has solutions.
G7 leaders called on Canada to provide reliable energy that the world needs, and will do so sustainably and inclusively. The Premier is just back from China, opening new opportunities for BC businesses. Today, President Marcos of the Philippines, Premier and I will join him. President Marcos is here beginning a state visit that will deepen our economic and security and cultural ties with the Philippines and, given his presidency of ASEAN, across the 500 million residents of the ASEAN countries. But to seize these opportunities, Canada has to do things differently. We need to move faster, we need to build bigger, and we need to work together. We have to be ambitious and build sustainably and inclusively. British Columbia is Canada's gateway to the world's fastest growing markets. British Columbia's power grid produces amongst the cleanest and most reliable, affordable electricity in North America. BC is a leader in mining, production of gold, zinc, copper, and well beyond. This great province has one of the world's most educated and skilled populations. And so it's on that exceptional foundation that Premier Eby and I are committed to build a stronger, more resilient, more independent province and country. Now, already it's the case that 1/3 of the initiatives that are advancing through the Major Projects Office come from BC. But today we're accelerating and broadening that momentum. Premier Eby and I are announcing a landmark Canada-British Columbia Cooperative Prosperity Agreement. This agreement is comprehensive, it's ambitious, and it will help transform the entire Canadian economy. So it's not just about one province, the entire Canadian economy, and will help fund the public services on which Canadians rely. C'est un plan qui nous aidera à exploiter.
This is a plan that will help us realize our full potential as an energy superpower. It will enable us to build new transport corridors, protection measures, and a concrete partnership with First Nations at each stage of the process.
Well, first, Canada and British Columbia will work together to accelerate the projects that will unlock Canada's full potential as a global energy superpower, starting with LNG. By 2040, global LNG demand is expected to rise by 60%, particularly to replace high-emission coal generation in Asia and to balance grids that are increasingly going to be powered by renewables. Canada can become the preferred supplier. The federal government will work with private sector proponents, communities, and First Nations to accelerate the permitting, the financing, and the construction of major LNG projects in BC. These include LNG Canada, Silicim's, Prince Rupert Gas Transmission Project, Cedar, and Woodfibre LNG. These projects collectively will more than triple our production over the next decade, reach new markets in Asia as well as Europe, and all of them built with low emissions and in full partnership with First Nations. Secondly, we will support the development of the power, the mining, and the trade infrastructure needed to unlock northern British Columbia's full economic potential in an environmentally sustainable way. With respect to power, the federal government will provide $3.5 billion for phases 1 and 2 of the North Coast Transmission Line to deliver clean, reliable, affordable electricity to projects in the regions and their communities. On mining, the federal government will invest $500 million to expand the Red Chris mine, which will increase Canada's annual copper production by more than 15%, reinforcing our position as the reliable critical mineral supplier of choice and reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the production by over 70%. With respect to broader issues of sustainability and conservation, we will create, through this process, a new conservation area the size of Greece, consistent with Canada's commitment to preserve 30% of our lands by 2030. And we will invest in new clean energy projects across the province with a particular focus on developing wind turbine manufacturing in BC. Nous améliorons les réseaux de transport.
We are upgrading energy transmission networks and delivering new wind energy projects to unlock our full potential as a global energy superpower. We are also implementing the commercial infrastructure needed to transport our resources to new markets throughout the world.
Moves $1 billion in trade every single day, reaching over 170 countries. And it moves more cargo than the next 5 largest Canadian ports combined. But that success is now straining capacity. Bottlenecks are appearing and they're worsening. Ships have to wait to load their cargo. It takes too long for imported goods to get to Canadian markets. That slows our trade. It means we lose some business to the United States. It increases prices here at home. Overall, it's holding our economy back. So we're committed to change that. This is part of our drive to double non-U.S. exports over the course of the next decade. And the Government of Canada will support $10 billion in major infrastructure upgrades to expand capacity at the Roberts Bank terminal. That alone will unlock $100 billion in new trade capacity, adding approximately $3 billion to Canada's economy every single year. The potential of this expansion over time will rival the contribution of the St. Lawrence Seaway to our country. Now, while we make it easier to move trade, we'll make life easier for long-suffering commuters. In partnership with British Columbia, the federal government will provide up to $3 billion for the George Massey Tunnel Replacement Project. This will replace, as many of you know, the aging 4-lane transport tunnel along Highway 99 with a modern 8-lane tunnel, enabling Canada to export more of what we produce while connecting the economy of the Lower Mainland as a whole. In parallel...
All right, I get it. We all want to bash. I enjoy getting all finding flaws and stuff like that. Today is not a good flaw day yet. It's actually probably a good day. On the new Air foils, the new ones that are made in Canada, there are ones that are made overseas, the blades, and they are not. They're not very good. But there's new modern blades that they kind of have. There's an air cushion in front of it, so it like air blasts the things that are near it away, even debris. Not all. Persistent things can get through, but it kind of they've got some headway on that, but it definitely is a factor. They are putting in, Canada, if you know anything about me, I'm really into hydro. There's a really new good hydro thing that's out that a 1 meter drop, 4 feet drop is enough to power these new vortex systems. A company out of Belgium made the new prop design that it doesn't kill the fish. That's what there's a problem before. No one would put these in. Because the blades that would spin from these meter drop ones, they work great, these turbines. One of these things, just one, which is a stream, you need a stream of a meter drop, does from 15 to 50 houses. So 15 is a meter. If you have a 4 meter drop, then you 50 houses. And it depends on, the thing. So 15 to 50. So you could have a bank of these down a kilometer of 10,000 of them, and it wouldn't even affect the fish. It only uses a portion of the water. It's a new system. It's unbelievable. And a lot of times is really where they're going to be used first, most likely, is on existing power plants. Existing power plants use like huge head fixture units. It's head drop. So they're like 60 feet, 100 feet, huge drops. This needs a 4 to work pretty damn good. So it could it'll most likely do is double, triple the power at our current hydro plants that are coming. Look, this company is Vortex. Vortex it's one company. There's many, but this one, Vortex, they're doing a really good job. They did a good job with the blades, and that's it's such a simple technology, but it's an important one to think about. You know what I mean? Like you don't like to see, you're like, it gets power. Then you see all like macerated life, you know, like, yeah, well. But this is, like I said today, I don't want to sit here and give much of applause to always Carney, but today with the $10 billion going towards the export department of the shipping, and it's nice that he specifically said the export, not the import side, the export side of the docks and van. Big expansion, 8-lane tunnel out in BC, huge thing. Those power lines, natural gas. So this isn't like I think I heard about wind turbines and stuff like that. But mainly this is like a pretty good message. And then he's flying over to go see Miss Smith, you know, and then talk pipelines. The only thing that was like a big one was like the northern ban. And then he also said, hey, you know, we're not going to stop this stuff, but we want some cash. You know, we want our cut. BC wants their cut if you're going to put a pipeline through our province. The coming technology. The hydro one is actually already in play. Very, very slow. 100%, you're right. It's so very slow. This hydro, but the Hydro 1 blade, it's actually, it's there now. And the thing is you won't see it because it's in places already that are hydro dams. When do you ever walk by a hydro dam near your house? You know what I mean? If you're from Canada, there's probably one within an hour or 4 drive within your, or you don't even, sometimes you walk by you don't recognize. You may not even notice these things either. They're covered. It looks like a snail. I recommend you just go Google Vortex. Vortex hydropower. There's only one company. They're from Belgium, though. It's going to come, but it doesn't make a splash because it's out of sight, out of man. Most people don't realize that Canada actually currently produces 60% of our power is already from hydropower, and we have 2.4 times that in conventional dam. Just using the conventional stuff. This what I'm talking about, Vortex, not included. Now, if you include that and this other new technology, it like basically just makes little ponds. It saves little ponds. It saves rainwater kind of thing. You trap it and then use that and then pump it back up in your power. It's like 30 times or 10 times to 30 times, whatever. It's a ridiculous number. More power than we actually currently use today. Just in that resource in Canada, we have that. We have it really good. It's not like I would say this, like, hey, let's do that and let's go to Egypt, and Egypt better put dams up. No. They're having an issue with it. But here in Canada, we have it everywhere. And because of our northern climate, and we don't have people, like, in northern climate, you don't want to be beside the water. It's just a thing. If you've ever been beside the water when it's cold, it gets colder. So we're not on the water exactly. So that's the biggest problem, that they have to move the shoreline 100 feet, 300 feet. Well, that 300 feet is taking out a lot of homes. We're like it says in our northern community, we don't have that issue. And then secondary, we don't have a high population. Pierre is, I think, speaking, so we're going straight to him. We're going to come back to this. Because he does a good question and answer.
We'll work with port authorities and First Nations to maximize the potential of the ports of Prince Rupert and the Port of Stewart.
More port.
These will serve as vital trade corridors for our critical minerals and other resources and provide much needed extra capacity for a growing BC economy. Now, British Columbians and Canadians have always understood that it's not just about what we build, but it's also about how we build. And that's why we're building sustainably, including by establishing a new national carbon credit framework to build carbon markets that actually work, and by expanding BC's clean grid to where it can have the greatest impact. It's also through Canada's $250 million
Okay, Pierre's not live yet. We're getting ready to live Pierre any minute
reinforce existing protection for Canada's whales, including the southern resident killer whale habitat alongside the BC coast.
It's an orca, sir.
And we'll strengthen protections for coastal ecosystems by preventing oil spills and strengthening marine conservation through our new Oceans Protection Plan. On top of all that, the conditions for the Roberts Banks Terminal 2 expansion will include detailed measures to protect these habitats. We're also clear that today's Canada-BC agreement will maintain the federal North Coast tanker ban in accordance with the proposed route of a new trans-provincial pipeline under the bilateral agreement with Canada and Alberta. We will build inclusively, in true partnership with First Nations, including those here alongside the Salish Sea. That means Indigenous ownership to give communities a direct stake in the projects and to deliver durable, long-lasting economic benefits. The scale of these opportunities is absolutely unprecedented, and we're committed that our agreement will provide the model for the future across the country.
You can do
We will also build in solidarity with BC workers. Through the Team Canada Strong initiative, we're in the process of creating up to 100,000 skilled trades apprenticeships. And through this agreement, we will also provide $630 million for affordable childcare in British Columbia, so more British Columbians can participate in the growing economy as they wish. Throughout, we will prioritize Canadian materials, including BC lumber, steel, and critical minerals. You know, there is a long, proud history of building in this province. That building has brought great prosperity, but also in retrospect, there have been some lessons. It hasn't always been done in the best way. I'll give a personal example here. My grandfather worked in the 30s and 40s, early 50s in the Anaconda copper mine at Britannia Beach, which at its peak provided 1/5 of the world's copper supply. Created great prosperity. It was foreign owned. The workers in that mine weren't always treated fairly. First Nations were excluded, and the environmental impact of that mine was largely ignored. This time, now, in partnership, we are building in the right way, in solidarity with workers, in full partnership with First Nations, and sustainably in a way that protects the lands and waters for generations to come.
I feel some texture.
Today's landmark agreement is about building a Canada that works for all, and that's truly Canada Strong. Thank you very much for your attention, and now I would like to pass the floor to Premier Eby.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly check. The sound will be on. I'm just going to quickly check to see if Pierre...
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you all here today. It's good to be here on the
Pierre's
Kirk
not ready yet.
And Slate
He's
people.
not
Thank
out.
you, Prime
He's
Minister,
a politician, you know.
for your
Don't expect
strong
him
partnership
exactly on time.
and leadership in this process we have been through. It's obviously a high-stakes time for Canada. The big game's coming up. And Prime Minister, you know, this is a country when the chips are down, we really know how to come through, and this is a Prime Minister that is a tough negotiator and very persuasive, so do not be surprised if you see some Moroccan players crossing the field in advance of the game.
He's doing the $50
Today is a big day
for
for Canada. It's a big day for British Columbia. Together, we have secured a landmark, generational, multi-billion-dollar agreement with the federal government that sets BC on a trajectory, a generational path to prosperity. The Canada-British Columbia Cooperative Prosperity Agreement is about building the kind of country we want, the kind of province we want, and BC's future, not just today, but for generations to come. It's all about leveraging our strengths in this province to deliver real benefits for British Columbians. It means more good jobs for workers in this province. It means more opportunities to train for better pay. It means faster commutes for people as we build critical infrastructure for the future of this province. It means less pollution as we build with clean BC electricity. And it means the kind of shared prosperity that supports strong public services, not just in this province, but right across the country. And we're doing all of this while protecting the beautiful places that make this province so remarkable. I am very proud to say that through our discussions and negotiations with the federal government, we have secured a commitment to keep the northern tanker ban firmly in place, protecting British Columbia's pristine northern coast and the $2 billion plus economy that relies on it. This agreement recognizes the role that BC will play in building a stronger, more independent nation. At the heart of this agreement is a significant multi-billion-dollar federal investment in British Columbia, including a major new investment in the North Coast transmission line, $3.5 billion in net benefit for BC hydro ratepayers, hundreds of millions of dollars in critical support for the Red Chris mine expansion, and up to $3 billion towards the Massey Tunnel Replacement Project. Taken together, these projects don't just strengthen our economy, don't just support good jobs, they also build the crucial infrastructure that our country will need going forward. The North Coast transmission line, for example, will help power growth with clean, affordable, made-in-BC electricity, leveraging our advantages over other jurisdictions around the world. Red Chris is going to help strengthen Canada's critical minerals sector at a time when the world is looking to us for a stable supply of those metals and minerals. And the Massey Tunnel replacement will improve a critical transportation corridor that people rely on every single day. This agreement also advances commitments to workforce training, childcare, unionized labor, and watershed protection. Because building a stronger economy means investing in people and protecting the places we depend on. Now, our government is going to continue discussions on federal support to build on BC's natural resource strengths through a newly established implementation committee. This committee has firm deadlines.
Implementation committee.
Together on key projects. This includes, as the Prime Minister mentioned, a federal commitment to delivering additional port infrastructure and additional support for our hard-hit forest sector and steel sectors in the as a result of the impact of U.S. tariffs. In an increasingly uncertain world, British Columbia can help deliver the critical materials that people need, that trusted allies need, from a stable and reliable partner, and I can assure you that was part of my conversations in every single trade mission to date, whether in Asia or anywhere else.
Vancouver Port
With some of the lowest carbon LNG in the world, we can help support energy security while reducing global emissions and creating opportunities for British Columbians. Now, there's one piece that I want to be clear about.
Prince Rupert,
this agreement doesn't require us to support any pipeline proposal from Alberta. However, as I've said before, we recognize our constitutional position, and we do not have the authority to stop a new pipeline. We will not be going to court to fight a pipeline project. Instead,
that's the key right there. He will not fight it. He says we're not going to fight it, and then he says the next part. I'll give it to you. We want a peace. Sounds like a mafia don kind of.
We will ensure we fulfill our constitutional obligations in good faith. Pipelines are federal jurisdiction. That's why this agreement matters. It ensures that the northern tanker ban stays in place, and it ensures that if a pipeline goes ahead, that British Columbians are fairly compensated for the environmental risks we would take on any new pipeline project. The projects that are moving forward in BC are about more than just infrastructure.
No, this is only export side of the port.
It's about stronger communities.
Side, which is actually
it's about cleaner growth. It's about building a future where people and families can thrive in our province. This agreement, without doubt, and I appreciate it, is a strong vote of confidence in the role that British Columbia will play in driving forward this new Canadian vision of the Prime Minister's and of so many Canadians about the role that our country can play. Over the next 3 years, our province is poised to deliver more than $88 billion in new major projects. That is an enormous opportunity for our
That is a huge amount. Amagil? Where's all the money coming from? Well, the Bank of Canada is owned by the Canadian citizens, and then they basically produce the money. Banks also produce money. They get $1, and they're allowed to split it into. And don't quote me 100%. You know what I mean? And they can divide it and have more. Right? They are allowed to grow according to the law. You know, someone needs to be able to do it, and banks are given that authority because you know what I mean. They've done their homework, know their math, right? To do that. Service for society is what it is, and forget that it is a service for society. We always get it's easy to tend to think that it isn't a service, but it is. It has to be done by someone, right? The government, the Bank of Canada, is owned by Canadians, so when they take money from that through bonds, investments, and stuff like that, they're taking it out on the lives of Canadians. Canada, the majority of our money comes from export money. So every barrel of oats go out, the government takes their cut. And that's where the majority of Canadian money comes from. Bulk pieces is really where we're best placed. And that's where majority of it. It isn't the work. How much like labor it contributes, like the labor income tax to that to government coffers is a lot less. I can pull up the pie chart, but it's a lot better. So anyway, Pierre still is not up. We're waiting on Pierre. Let's see what EB has to say about this. And this is, like I said, only on the exports, and he should be ecstatic doing his happy dance with $51 billion ish coming down, and it's all in the southern majority of this is in the south, so he's trying to concentrate it there. A bunch of ports seems to be more
our province and for Canada. At a time of global uncertainty, Canada needs reliable trading partners, stronger infrastructure, and new sources of economic growth, and BC will help with all of those efforts. By securing our fair share through this agreement, we're putting ourselves in a stronger position to support economic growth and improve the public services that everybody counts on. This partnership shows what is possible when governments work together and focus on improving people's lives. For too long, British Columbians sent out more money than we received back in federal supports. We haven't been receiving our fair share. But today, that is changing. Prime Minister Carney understands British Columbia. He understands that here in BC, economic growth, environmental protection, and reconciliation are not competing priorities. Many of the opportunities before us depend on protecting the coast, safeguarding watersheds, and building responsibly. And major projects move forward most successfully when First Nations are partners, supporters, and owners of those projects. That is the formula that works in BC. That is how we create lasting prosperity. Now, the Prime Minister has been a strong supporter of this vision. He's been a tough negotiator through this process, but he's one who recognizes the strengths of this province and the role that we all play in Canada's future. For British Columbians, this comes down to just a few things. More good jobs. More opportunities to train for those jobs, continued progress to support parents with affordable childcare, major infrastructure projects moving forward, a protected northern coastline, growth powered by Made in BC, clean electricity, and a stronger future with better public services. We fought hard for BC's interests, and we secured an agreement that delivers real benefits for British Columbians. I am very grateful to the Prime Minister for his partnership in this work and for recognizing that BC has a key role to play in building a stronger and more independent Canada. Thank you very much.
Merci à vous deux. Nous allons maintenant passer aux questions. On a
Questions and half answers. Actually, not bad.
Et à qui s'adresse la question? Première question, first question.
It's a pretty good thing.
Question in French. What does this agreement say with regards to the moratorium, with regards to tankers, and what does it have to do with your agreement with Daniel Smith? Well, the first part of your question, what moratorium are you talking about? There's no moratorium.
We're going to hear about it.
The tanker ban.
Soon.
The North.
Probably
the North Coast
10 minutes.
tanker ban. Oh, in French. Oh, well, okay, thank you. Thank you for your question.
Clear and broken French.
So it's very clear in the agreement that we've just struck with BC that the tanker ban, or this moratorium rather, in French, remains. It remains, and we're going to protect the north coast of BC and of Canada. Now, with regards to the possible route for the proposed pipeline, the pipeline that will be proposed by Alberta, perhaps this afternoon, we're not there yet. Thank you. Next question.
John Hernandez, for the Prime Minister, but the Premier might want to weigh in as well. On the pipeline, are you still prepared to pursue it over the objections we've heard from the man standing next to you?
Well, two things. One, I'll just repeat what I just said in French, which is that more detailed discussions of the pipeline, I think, are best kept to later today. We'll have an availability with the Premier of Alberta. Secondly, I'll refer back, and of course the Premier, I'll refer back to the Premier's comments, which recognize the constitutional arrangements in Canada, which recognize a good faith undertaking, but also which recognize a series of expectations around any proposed pipeline, the tanker ban remaining in place, proceeding with carbon capture associated or other emission reduction measures associated with that. And
I interrupt this Prime Minister to inform you he is not AI. He is a real human being, though AI has, if anyone's been watching lately, the AI on him is pretty damn close, because the way his mannerism of speech that says, I just read a numbers manual for the last 25 hours, is pretty astounding how close it is. It's like, so I kind of, at times I laugh. This is the new AI, and it's going to be able to, it's always, we've had it. It's been always there, but now it's going to be available to it's going to be more. So, enjoy. Think about that while you hear his mannerisms. It's fun.
Full partnership and consultations partnership over time with First Nations, so Section 35 equivalent partnership. All positions that the Government of Canada support and has supported from the start, but the Premier may wish to add.
Thank you. I want to reflect on the fact that the federal government was under no obligation to sit down with us to talk about the pipeline. This is an area of federal responsibility under the law. We learned this the hard way on the last pipeline, and so the decision to sit down with us, to hear British Columbia's concerns, and to ensure that as best as possible we found a path forward on British Columbia's interests while respecting our North Coast was, in my opinion, a sign of leadership and a commitment to collaborative federalism, to Canada that works. The position of British Columbia has been very clear. There is no way that we see a new bitumen pipeline going through the north of the province, the removal of the tanker ban, and the compromising of multi-billion dollars of private sector projects. The fact that tanker ban is uplifted, respected, and committed to, again, by the federal government in this agreement is a significant win for British Columbia. We have anxiety about the impact of any new pipeline project, period, on British Columbia's coast, which is why in this agreement there are very clear safeguards in place around spill protection, around British Columbia's participation. We know our legal position, we understand it, and we commit in this document to engaging when and if a pipeline proposal comes forward in good faith if these commitments are adhered to, and that is what this agreement is about.
Hi, Daria Zargar from Global News. This might be for both of you. What kind of money will BC get from Ottawa over its carbon pricing?
So the agreement between Alberta and the federal government included a carbon price that is different than the carbon price that we were working on in British Columbia. In terms of our planning processes going forward, in BC we have a system where big polluters pay, and it's called the output-based pricing system. That obviously brings challenges for us from a competitive perspective for BC's industry. We'll be working forward about how to incorporate this new agreement and this new federal carbon pricing scheme into our understanding of the competitive landscape here in British Columbia. What's in the agreement is a commitment from the federal government to ensure that we're not financially impacted by that. So it gives us the space to be able to engage in the policy work we need to on our carbon price here in the province.
And I'll just confirm what the Premier just said, and the only thing I'll add is what's also in the agreement is the exploration of developing a more consistent and broader carbon market. That, when I say more consistent, it's called a national carbon price framework, and that's part of the work of the implementation committee, because there's a potential to broaden this out. But the first point, which is directly to your question, is, as the Premier said, that we'll make that adjustment, make whole, if you will, the province of British Columbia, and that's also be the case for other provinces that would be affected. Thank you.
Next question. Question, Kissim.
Hi, Thomas Steele from Bloomberg. Just to ask about the Roberts Bank 2 mention in the agreement. It talks about a $10 billion figure. As far as I was aware, there was sort of $3.54 billion being talked about for the cargo terminal expansion. So what's the rest of that money, and could we see that as the terminus of a new oil pipeline?
On the last bit of your question, again, I'll refer all sort of pipeline specifics more properly to this afternoon's availability with the Premier of Alberta. After all, Alberta is the proponent or is the one that should put forward the pipeline. In terms of, there's various ways to size it, and there'll be greater specificity as the project moves. The core container and other terminal aspect of the project moves forward to the major project office, which is something you can expect relatively soon. That the major projects office would start its work on that. So there's container capacity, there's other bulk capacity. There are a series of environmental protections, which some don't count, but there are very considerable environmental protections that will be put in place consistent with the environmental assessments that have been done over the years and fully taking those into account. And there's potential other infrastructure that might make sense, but all of this will come out more directly. So, yeah. So I use the $10 billion figure just to give an overall sighting of the order of magnitude. That's not obviously a final FID figure. Thanks.
Next question. Question, Kissim.
Mike Hager, Globe and Mail. PM Carney, upholding the North Coast tanker ban, does that mean that Alberta has abandoned plans for a northern route and is instead focused on a southern route?
Again, I think questions directly with respect to a proposal from Alberta are best answered this afternoon. It's their proposal, their pipeline, obviously working to and I want to reinforce what the Premier said a few moments ago. In this spirit of cooperative,
4:30 today, we're going to find out about
to
that oil.
Maybe possible, earlier from Pierre. A huge range of things possible. So you can draw your own conclusions, but and you can also wait until this afternoon. I would, but I'm just going to make an observation that I'll hand to the next person, which is this is a landmark agreement not because, I mean, yes, there are aspects here on energy infrastructure that are important, but the LNG developments that are reinforced by this, the absolutely enormous possibilities that are opened up in the in northern BC through the Northern Critical Conservation Corridor with clean energy in that, the critical minerals side of that, the communities that get developed because of that. The entire logistics, the change to the logistics in the Lower Mainland from Massey Tunnel through to Roberts Bay. It's not just Roberts Bank. It's not just, you don't just expand the capacity, obviously, of the port, but then
Okay, so Pierre's just starting up now. We're getting Pierre up.
Leave aside rail connects and other components that need for things to work. And that's where the benefits, and then my last point I just make, is there are enormous direct benefits and investments in British Columbia, as is right. There are social benefits from childcare and beyond. There are benefits to Alberta potentially because of energy infrastructure. But there are also fundamental benefits to the entirety of Canada because of a much more effective transportation system, because of the resources that the financial resources this will create in order to provide Canadians with the social services they deserve. Thank you.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Hi, Jared Yeager here with Sitka Media. On your affordable housing plan, so a lot of people, politicians and pundits from across the political spectrum have labeled this a condo bailout. And so, you've had some time to iron out some more of the details. So I'm wondering what benefits, if any, would be seen by developers?
Thanks. I'll take this one. You're hearing directly from developers that this is not what they asked for. And it is not, from their perspective, a bailout when you buy something.
That's Pierre.
That's on liquidation.
But we're listening.
You don't say to yourself, "I'm supporting a bailout for the store." This is an opportunity for us to recognize the reality that people can't wait for housing. We can buy housing at below our construction cost and make it available affordably
for Lakeland, and
if we don't do it, someone else will do it. Large private sector investors, and make them available for rent for profit, and then flip them. These condos will be purchased, and so we're seeking to purchase a small number of them to make them available.
It could not be more appropriate, could it, for us to gather here at the Legion the day after Canada Day, as we honored and celebrated all those who have sacrificed and served to preserve Canada's way of life, our values, and our freedom. A fight I think we all agree. We all, as Canadians, must be more vigilant for now than ever before. I do also want to recognize the presence of the local UCP MLA, Jackie Lovely. Thank you for being here, for joining us. I do just want to mention that since 2015, when I was first elected, I have had the privilege of serving as Shadow Minister for Energy and Natural Resources for much of that time under two other leaders and along with Pierre Poilievre. And it has been an all-consuming passion and duty of my life to fight for energy workers, for the outsized contributions that Alberta makes to Canada, for the importance of private sector energy development, and against the Never Build Anything Anywhere C-69, the shipping ban C-48 that we learned today will stay in place, the crazy plastic bans, the drilling bans, the federal industrial carbon tax, and all those anti-development laws and regulations that this same Liberal government has imposed over the last 11 years and still has not repealed or reformed. And we have done all that together as Conservatives to expand Canada's oil production and exports for affordability, for affordable essentials for every single Canadian, for self-reliance, security, economic and national unity here at home, and so Canada can provide our allies with the products and the technology they need. Now, during all that time, over the last 11 years, I have worked very closely with Pierre Poilievre on major economic and resources issues. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about what I see up close and personal all the time. Now, it's the same thing that you hear in his riding of Battle River Crowfoot observe. It's a relentless work ethic. That's a standard he sets for each and every one of us caucus members. And I'll give you an example of that. If you've been following, you probably saw him yesterday. He was all over the place. He was in Three Hills, Trochu, Drumheller, Hanna, Irma, Wainwright, and of course here today in Camrose. And that's because Pierre Poilievre doesn't take a single Canadian or a single vote for granted. He works hard every single day and in every way to lead our Conservative Party of Canada, to earn the trust and confidence of everybody across the country. He has also
Canadians can see it and see the opportunity that is presented here. As just one example, we have absolutely no plans to do this in Vancouver because the numbers just don't work. And yet much of the critique I hear is about downtown Vancouver developers. So if we could have an opportunity to launch this program, to get people into housing faster, to leverage the ability of government to be able to get people into affordable housing as quickly as possible, I would appreciate that. I think it's an important initiative. And people hate it. Hey, we don't have to do it. But it is a chance for us to make a real difference in the lives of more than 2,000 families.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. Federal government pleased to participate in a small way, but an impactful way. And Minister Robertson is here, a small way, impactful way, in order to create the flexibility to do exactly what the Premier just said. Take advantage of distress in some developers. Take advantage for the purposes of affordable housing for families in this province, and affordable housing, including with potential rent-to-own model. And in the end, this is the proof of the pudding is in the eating. It's in the actual transaction. If those opportunities present themselves, we've created the flexibility in order to get affordable housing to people at a cheaper price than could be built. We'll do it. If the market shifts, if the opportunity doesn't present itself, then it won't happen. But this is a smart way to do it. And as last thing, I'll just reemphasize: what happens in real estate over time is a bad development becomes a good development on the second or third owner. But in between, there's that opportunity for hardworking families that can't find affordable housing. And I commend the BC government for the idea of creating this, and we're happy to help make that a reality.
Next question, Passion Kissa.
Hi, this is for Prime Minister Carney, CBC News, Andrew Lee. Women make up 50% of the labor force, but only 15% of the Red Seal trades in Canada.
Yeah.
What do you say to critics who might say this is a jobs for men?
Well, okay, thank you for that, because this is a critical point. So part of the reason for our Team Canada Strong initiative, and I'm just going to take a moment, Andrew, to explain it for everyone. But just get to the motivation. The motivation, part of the point is exactly that. It's to get more women into the skilled trades. It's to get more young people, obviously, into the skilled trades, disadvantaged other groups into the skilled trades. Now, how do you do that? Part of the way you do it is you create a program at scale. This is $6 billion in funding that's coming into this program for 100,000, up to 100,000 apprenticeships. That's the first way. The second way is you make it seamless. So you start with initial opportunities to get into the labor force, which we work to create. You have a digital system, so your Red Seal book, your ticket, if you will, is digitally is digital. And follows you all the way through. You get the direct apprenticeship experience, working with unions, working with technical colleges, but really working with unions. So we're going directly in with the unions. So on the job experience, initial job, on the job experience, the training and the certification, and then at the end, help with placement into the first job, and including, because often it's not just the awareness of the opportunity, the seamlessness, but it's also the cost. So one of the things we're including is EI support and a completion bonus, because another thing that happens with apprenticeships over time is the completion rates are quite low, regardless of who goes in. I mean, they're in the 20%, depends on the province, but let's call it all rounded into the 20-25% range. So all of this is designed in order to make it easier to get in, get more women in, more other groups in, and to get those completion rates. We need these. British Columbia will need these workers. And I guess a message, if someone's watching and is interested, these are not jobs. These are careers. The Premier referenced earlier $88 billion specifically that's relevant to this agreement of investment in British Columbia. But we're going to create many, many more opportunities similarly that are going to be built out over the decades. So that's the message.
Just to follow up, Prime Minister Carney, I'm old enough, lost enough hair in this business. I've heard those announcements before saying the encouragement of getting women involved in trades, but statistically it continues to be a predominantly male-oriented job. How can we make this fair?
Well, you do. I mean, this is. You do need a holistic strategy, so I won't. I'll just refer to my previous answer, but also refer.
Okay, there's something I'm going to mention here. Before, well, he has a good answer. I watched this before. This is previous. Pierre's just coming up in one minute. Just I'm going to finish this up here. We're getting the women in trades. We were in a high rise, and then to get the high rise up to skip. The skip is a type of elevator. It's a construction type of elevator. It's different, but it has different elevations. You can only fit certain things so high. And so to get these, your flying rockets, right, your blue rockets, up and down and to pump the fees, they're lower and they don't have a top. So you'd put them in the elevator room kind of thing, or wherever the skip room, where the material and the people go up and down, the guys who don't want to do the stairs, high rise. It's pretty hard to go up 14 flights of stairs with tools and material just to do your job, you know what I mean? You're like, okay, break, I got here, So you take that thing when you can't. So this flying rocket, not on every floor, every third floor or something like that, without a top, is in there. So, you don't use it unless you have to. A lot of times you're working construction, you're sweating this and that, something can happen. Eating some good, horn food, right? It comes in a gut, they call it the gut truck. Good gut truck food. It's hot food in a truck, out of a truck. And you're right there in the open. There's no top on the thing. They smell very good, and they don't very work as much because you could hide a cigarette while you're in there. If you could manage, you smoke a cigarette in there because that was the place because the smoking got the thing is the open top doesn't work with everyone, right? I didn't like it myself, especially because it's like, oh man, I gotta take. It's gonna be I hope that the elevator doesn't come, right? You know what I mean? And it's on wheels, right? So it's completely understandable. On one company we worked for, the General, it has to be the General pay for it because it's quite expensive. You made them, but this is what it should be. It should be trailer bathrooms, proper trailer bathrooms, and you got a few regular standard up there for the liquids, but basically have those things, the proper things. But here's his answer, which is so right. And this is because this is the old days. You look at those pictures. Look at those pictures of those guys. They're sitting there eating lunch up there. And what happens when you miss your footing once? It happens. They probably over a career seen someone. What happens? you know what happened, right? People did their thing, right? And it opens the poor guys below. Modern age, you know, we build individual bathroom pieces is the best way. Sink thing for one person. This old school way of, and my idea, the old school way of, you know, everybody, you know, gets to commingle in the bathroom is bullshit. And the stupid, it would end, you know what, if I was a conservative, I'm sorry I'm rambling. If I was a conservative, I would just say no more multi-person bathrooms. Done. It's just you have to do a bank. It's a bank of bathrooms. There's 10. There's a sink and a toilet. You have a few extra ones. They're called barrier free at the bank, depending on the amount they need to the usage of a facility. It's all calculable already. You don't build you have to build a bathroom the size of thing. And now I think what we have to do is, hey, we got to invest more individual. That's it. Done. End of sentence. If I was a conservative, you can end the whole thing, but they bank on it. Here is his answer. The reason why I rambled on that is here's Carney's answer. It'll make sense now. What do you hear? Oh, no, it's Canada's poor and weak Canadian. If you don't fight, we will lose Canada, says Linda Qua.
To another element that is in this agreement. And one of the things that has held back the level of female participation in the labor force has been the absence of affordable childcare. Now, we have made progress on that, but we also need to have funding at the scale and at the price points in order to get there. And again, you've touched on a very important point, because one of the elements of this cooperation agreement is to look at all aspects, or as many aspects of the economic opportunity, but also the social needs that come with that. There's reference to workers' rights and working with unions. Obviously, there's huge elements in here about inclusive partnerships with Indigenous, but also the child care agreement, the skills agenda, is in here by reference because it's central to achieving some of the outcomes that you just referenced. So thank you. Yeah.
Thanks. I'll just hop in here because British Columbia spent a lot of time working on how we can encourage more women into the trades. That included engaging with women directly and saying, what can we do? And one of the pieces, certainly all the pieces the Prime Minister mentioned, childcare, trades training, a generational investment in trades training in our government at the provincial level, now, as a result of this agreement, partnered up with the federal government's initiative. But one of the pieces that came out of it was and it sounds, it can sound trivial, but it is not in terms of working conditions for women on job sites, is the clear message that we got from the building trades that flush toilets and running water were essential to a comfortable working environment for women on the job site, and for all workers generally, of course, but particularly that their working conditions were not adequate. So we actually put a regulation in place that ensured that this technology, which is readily available, could be provided on job sites. Part of this work is about tracking as well. And so when we have community benefits agreements, when we have project labor agreements, we are tracking with employers the number of women, the number of underrepresented groups, and we are seeking to improve those numbers. Tracking, accountability, listening to women about what they need on the job site. This is all part of our strategy in BC.
We'll have time for one last question. Dernière question.
Thank you very much. Chuck Chang with the Canadian Press. This question is for Prime Minister Carney. How would you respond to those who would characterize what you announced today in BC as a quid pro quo to what you will be announcing with Premier Smith later this afternoon? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think partly the nature of the last response, a series of other things we've touched on, answer that. This is a comprehensive, ambitious, multi-year agreement. It helps with the next phase of this economy. It helps with the transformation of the Canadian economy. I'm going to come back to where I started. This is Canada's Strong Day. This is a representation of what we are all trying to accomplish to make Canada more independent, more resilient, more prosperous, more sustainable, more inclusive. And all of those elements are in this agreement. All of those elements were in the Premier's most recent trade mission, ended last night, I think, if I have my time right, to China. All of those elements will be in our discussion with President Marcos, which will begin in a few minutes. It's about capturing the immense potential of this province for the benefit of all the citizens of this province and more broadly all Canadians.
Thank you, Prime Minister. One of the realities of British Columbians is we build big things, we get big things done, and to be honest, we've been.
Pierre Poilievre.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Shannon, and thank you very much to the Camrose Legion Hall for hosting us today for this important message on how we're going to have affordable, safe, and strong country for all people across the country. I want to thank Camrose Mayor PJ Stasko, MLA Jackie Lovely, who's here with us today, County Reeve Cindy Troutman, local CAO Teresa Gatrix, and thank you, of course, to the great Shannon Stubbs, our newly renamed Shadow Minister of Infrastructure with special responsibility for pipelines and other oil and gas questions. She has been fearlessly championing Alberta, oil and gas, and other important issues for a very long time. And it was great to be back here in my home province of Alberta to celebrate Canada Day yesterday, waving the flag, promoting our wonderful country, and instilling unity across the great Battle River Crowfoot riding, which feeds, powers, and protects this country. Ça me fait plaisir d'être ici, en Alberta, au lendemain du Fête du Canada, où on a eu une excellente célébration, où on a célébré notre pays extraordinaire avec les Albertains à travers les régions rurales de cette province extraordinaire. Les conservateurs ont trois priorités principales. L'abord du cabinet chantant malheureux qu'une illusion.
Okay, they are experiencing technical difficulties with Pierre. All right, here we go. It is looking clear. It's looking clear like it was in 1962. No. 1997. Just like remember back in the day when you watched TV? What a difference.
Il a fait volte-face en disant il va pas réussir à atteindre des cibles d'émissions, mais nous avons de bonnes raisons à ne pas croire d'éliminer les lois anti-développement C-69. There's a new renamed carbon tax they call the fuel standard, raising pour chacun qui travaille fort, pour monsieur et madame tout le monde. C'est comme ça qu'on va réinstaurer la promesse du Canada. Et c'est ça notre mission. Thank you again. It is our mission as conservatives.
There we go.
To restore the promise of this country. Conservatives have three priorities: affordability, affordability, affordability. And what we're hearing far and wide is Canadians cannot afford to live after 11 years of this Liberal government, particularly to eat. Food prices are rising faster in Canada than in any other G7 country. And that's in part because of Liberal taxes right up and down the food chain. They brought in an industrial carbon tax on fertilizer, farm equipment, and food processing. There's a new renamed carbon tax they call the fuel standard, raising gas prices yet another 7 cents a liter. And they have inflationary spending that destroys the purchasing power of our money. That and the weak loonie are all driving up your grocery prices, and those are all the results of Mark Carney's policies. He promised he was going to reverse everything he said and did, and his party had done in the prior 10 years, but it was all an illusion. After a year and a half of Mark Carney, it is more costs, more debt, more handouts to the club of liberal insiders, power brokers, and insiders, but nothing for the Canadian people. Today, we understand that Mark Carney will hold another announcement in Alberta regarding a potential future pipeline. To start with, let me congratulate the great Danielle Smith for continuing to fight for Alberta and its oil and gas sector. She's been up against a lot. The Liberal Party, at the instigation of their then economic advisor, Mark Carney, waged all-out war on our oil and gas sector for over 10 years. Mark Carney tries to distance himself from those policies in his rhetoric, but the reality is that he was the worldwide champion of it. He was the head of the UN agency seeking to shut down oil and gas. He was the head of a banking alliance seeking to defund the oil and gas sector. He advised Trudeau that the carbon tax needed to be bigger and broader. He opposed the Northern Gateway pipeline, which would be delivering 500,000 barrels of oil to the West Coast today, had the Liberals not killed it. And so now he claims that he's changed his mind, that he was wrong all along. Well, if that's the case, then why hasn't he eliminated C-69, the anti-development law? Why hasn't he eliminated the ban on shipping oil off the northwest coast of British Columbia? And why is he going ahead with a 500% increase in the industrial carbon tax? A tax that will not only drive up the cost of food and homes, but will drive billions of dollars out of our country, south of the border, where they pay no carbon tax whatsoever. We don't need more taxes. We need more affordable prices for industry and people. And we know that the consequences of these policies have been to make Canada more expensive. Food prices rising over 4%, the fastest in the G7. They've been doubled since Carney took office. Rents are up 3.5%. Gas prices have been up 33%. And even if you exclude gasoline, which has been affected by the war, we see prices are rising for everything else. This Prime Minister has doubled our deficit, increased the tax burden on energy, and doubled down on the policies that the Liberals have brought forward. Today in British Columbia, we got startling news that Mark Carney is going ahead with his condo bailout. This is a handout for donor developers and other Liberal insiders. At a time when Canadians cannot afford a home, they're being forced to pay through their taxes so that Carney's condo developer friends don't have to take a price reduction on the sale of their exorbitant condos. So the same young people who can't afford homes will have to compete with their own tax dollars to place bids on those empty condos. Conservatives have the solution, which is for the government to get out of the way, let the condo developers lower the prices so that Canadians can afford to buy those condos on the open market. It's called the free market, and it works. So today we will be watching with interest as more details come out, but we have a solution also to get pipelines built and other projects built, and they are very simple. Get the federal government out of the way. Get the government out of the way and repeal the industrial carbon tax. Get the government out of the way, repeal the anti-development laws C-69. Get the government out of the way and allow shipping of oil off the northwest coast of BC. Get the government out of the way and permit a pipeline immediately upon receiving the path and the proposal from Premier Danielle Smith. By getting out of the way, we can allow builders to build, investors to invest, and workers to work. We've got to get away from Mark Carney's approach, which Ronald Reagan described, is that if a Liberal sees something that moves, they tax it. If it keeps moving, they regulate it. And when it stops moving, they subsidize it. Why not just get out of the way and let it move? We don't need politicians to get in the way. Politicians don't build pipelines, they block pipelines. And our approach is we want an economy based on low taxes, fast permits, and free enterprise, not an economy based on handouts, bailouts, and carve-outs for the Liberal club. We want a meritocracy, not an aristocracy. We want a country where hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful home on a safe street with affordable, delicious food on your table every night. That's something to be excited about. That's the hope we're fighting for. Thank you very much, and keep the fight alive. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from reporters. Please identify yourself and your outlet.
Scott Mitchell with Stingray Radio. I know you've been touring around to the various communities in the constituency here over the last day or so. What have you been hearing from the farmers in particular with this record rainfall that we've gotten and the absolute insane flooding, just how it's impacting them now?
Yes, great question. In fact, I'm headed off to Tofield after this press conference where they've had some terrible flooding. I've already been on the phone with the Reeve and some of the other local representatives. Damien Currick, the former member of Parliament, hopefully future member of Parliament, is actively engaged and has been giving me regular briefings. And so they've been telling me that, like, it depends where they are. Tofield is really bad, extremely bad. But in other places, they're saying that if they get some heat units in the next 3 or 4 weeks, then the saturated soils could really blossom some incredible crops. So it really does, when you're asking me what they're saying, that's what they're saying. I was also reminding them that our approach is to get rid of all gas taxes for the rest of the year to save 25 cents a liter, $20 a fill up for a truck. Obviously, they all drive trucks. And about $1,200 between now and Christmas. And they thought that was a big help because, of course, one of the biggest costs for farming is fuel. So let's get those fuel prices down so that farmers can farm affordably. I'll have more to tell you when I'm finished meeting with the Tofield residents in a couple hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Aidan Sheikh, Canberra's Booster. Now, you've been our MP for almost a year now. What is one of the biggest concerns that you hear from our constituents, and what are you doing about it?
Well, I would say the overall concern is affordability. People are working harder and harder, but they just can't make it. Young people are struggling to buy homes. Houses used to be really cheap in rural Alberta. You could buy a really nice house for $150,000. Now they've more than doubled. So the youth think they ask themselves, how long will I have to save up to buy a home? Produce is really expensive at the grocery store. So a lot of mothers are saying that they've had to downgrade the diets of their kids. Seniors are cutting back on what they can afford to eat. And of course, fuel prices have been high, partly because our dollar is so low, and that hurts rural people more than anyone because, of course, they've got longer distances to drive, and the goods they buy have to come longer distances to get here. So I would say the number one overall, our overarching concern is affordability, and that's why I've made affordability our top 3 conservative priorities.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you.
Bonjour Monsieur Poilievre, une question en français s'il vous plaît, Mathieu Delatte, Radio-Canada.
Merci.
Est-ce que la formule du pipeline proposée par Mark Carney aujourd'hui a de quoi calmer les ambitions séparatistes de l'Alberta?
Tout d'abord, on n'a pas vu la proposition. Ce que je dirais, c'est que le fait que les libéraux ont tué 2 pipelines déjà et ont imposé des lois anti-développement depuis 10 ans a alimenté un ressentiment en Alberta tout en affaiblissant notre économie. Donc, pour vraiment unir notre pays, il faut que M. Carney se tasse du chemin. Éliminer les taxes carbone, toutes les taxes carbone, éliminer les lois anti-développement et offrir des permis pour des pipelines qui traversent les provinces dans des jours et pas dans des mois. C'est comme ça qu'il peut envoyer un message aux Albertains que leur industrie clé qui alimente toute notre économie à travers le Canada, y compris au Québec, va pouvoir grandir et que les Albertains peuvent être prospères au sein d'un Canada uni.
Thank you. Next question.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Lena. I'm with CBC. I just have a question. Alberta, BC, and the federal government all seem to be on side with a plan for the new oil pipeline from Alberta to the West Coast. Do you now believe this pipeline will be built, and what do you think of the agreement between the federal government and BC to keep the North Coast oil tanker ban in place?
So I can't answer the first part of your question because I haven't seen the final agreement. When we do, we'll respond accordingly. I think the North Coast ban is ridiculous. American tankers travel through those same Pacific waters all the time, from Alaska to the U.S. West Coast. So why does Mark Carney believe it's safe for our American tankers carrying American oil from Alaska to California is safe, but it's not safe for us to send Canadian oil over to Asia through the same passages? Secondly, it takes about 36 hours less time to get to Asia from northern BC as it does from southern BC. And that's because of the curvature of the Earth. It's just simple geometry. The further north you go, the shorter the curve you have to travel to get to the other side of the pond. And so that's why we believe that the best place to put a pipeline is to Prince Rupert or Kitimat, which can take 1 million barrels mostly to Asia. We don't want a pipeline that will simply lead tankers to take the oil south down to the California West Coast. We're trying to diversify here. So the best way to diversify is by permitting a pipeline from Hardisty, Alberta to Prince Rupert or Kitimat to ship 1 million barrels a day over to Asia. And we hope that the Prime Minister will signal his willingness to grant such a permit today. D'accord. Le nord-ouest de la Colombie-Britannique fait le plus grand sens de façon géographique. Ça prend à peu près 36 heures de moins pour acheminer le pétrole du nord de la Colombie-Britannique en Asie comparativement au sud. C'est à cause de simplement je ne sais pas comment le décrire en français, mais c'est la géométrie du monde, plus nord, moins de distance. Et nous voulons acheminer notre produit outre-mer en Asie. On ne veut pas simplement aller vers le sud pour traverser, pour envoyer le pétrole en Californie. Moi, j'éliminerais l'interdiction de pouvoir acheminer le pétrole dans le nord de la Colombie-Britannique parce que les Américains le font déjà dans les mêmes eaux. Donc, pourquoi est-ce qu'on permet les grands navires américains de traverser dans ces chemins-là et on bannit les Canadiens de faire exactement la même chose? C'est ridicule. On devrait donner le feu vert aux pipelines vers le sud de la Colombie-Britannique, vers le nord de la Colombie-Britannique et dans toutes les directions et permettre les investisseurs, les entrepreneurs et les travailleurs de la bâtir avec de l'argent privé.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
Hello, Elliot with City News Edmonton. Obviously, you want that pipeline going through North BC. How would you go about accomplishing that? Just telling people in BC and those who are against the pipeline, too bad, Alberta and Canada need this? Just kind of wondering what your vision is to getting that done.
Well, first of all, we have to point out that British Columbians want the pipeline. They overwhelmingly support it. All the public opinion research shows that the vast majority of British Columbians support pipelines from Alberta to the Pacific. There's a radical group of fake environmentalists who've been fighting.
Uh-oh. Feed pause here. This radical group, they're attacking the feed. There's a northern ban happening is what's going on here. The northern pipeline ban. And That's not going to change. He basically said that, but no. But down in the south, basically, I think that there's options. Or, of course, Yukon. Deal with the Yukon. It just so happens to be BC aligned that way. Okay, let's see if this is... we're back. Yeah. Technical difficulties, folks, in this feed. It's not the greatest coming. Just this one from Pierre. He seems to be thinking... Vinicius. We can finish up that other one that was happening while this sorts. It'll sort itself out more than anything. Just give it a second. I know that'll happen. But here I can finish up
Been a
this.
bit quiet about
Ebby was talking here.
And
going on his
those days are
happy
over.
dance.
We are proud of what we're doing here in British Columbia.
For the last 15
when we
years,
look at what's happening at the
and
Major
have had
Projects
the ear of
Office,
the
the
Liberal
projects that are
government
there,
in
they're
Ottawa.
BC projects.
Frankly, they can have their say, but they can't have their way. There is no environmental argument
and they
against
can have their
a
say. What did they
pipeline
say?
to the northern BC ports. There is no environmental argument for it. If there were, we wouldn't be letting Americans take their tankers through those very same waters. And
oh, feed down. Feed down again.
so why not lift the tanker ban, permit a pathway, and invite the private sector to come?
Invite the private sector to come along. Then they have
and build.
And build.
Obviously, they'd have to follow all
Canadian. Remember, this feed cut out a minute or I don't know, a few minutes ago. Just the direct. We're live, but ish. We're technical difficulties happening this feed. So back to EB.
When we look at the opportunities in the fast-growing markets in Asia, those opportunities run through British Columbia. We are delivering the economic growth and prosperity for the country when we have our economic strategy. It's called Look West, because we really felt the need to draw attention to what's happening here in British Columbia to the rest of Canada, and particularly to Ottawa. And I will say in this agreement, the federal government, specifically the Prime Minister, has recognized what's happening here in BC. To look at this as an Alberta agreement is again to do a disservice to British Columbia and the remarkable and incredible growth that is happening here in this province. This is a BC agreement about BC projects. It is a commitment to what makes this province amazing, our pristine North Coast. It is a recognition of our role in the cooperative federalism across the country that we play every single day with our ports and infrastructure, and it is a commitment to the next generation that is not just going to continue, but it is going to improve, and people are going to be able to participate. And so I understand Alberta's going to make an announcement tonight. That's Alberta's announcement. This is a BC agreement about BC projects. It, on our math, approaches $20 billion in commitments to this province. It is a generational federal commitment that we have been asking for a long time and have never seen. And I want to thank the Prime Minister for his leadership in helping us deliver it.
That's his final happy dance.
Thanks, Tal.
It could not be more appropriate.
Message on how we're going to have affordable, safe, and strong country for all people across the country. I want to thank Camrose Mayor PJ Stasko, MLA Jackie. Then why hasn't he eliminated C-69, the anti-development law? Why hasn't our approach is we want an economy based on low taxes, fast permits, and free enterprise, not an economy based on handouts, bailouts, and carve-outs for the Liberal club. We want a meritocracy, not an aristocracy. We want a country where hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful home on a safe street with affordable, delicious food on your table every night. That's something to be excited about. That's the hope we're fighting for. Thank you very much, and keep the fight alive. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from reporters. Please identify yourself and your outlet.
Scott Mitchell with Stingray Radio. I know you've been touring around to the various communities and the constituency here over the last day or so. What have you been hearing from the farmers in particular with this record rainfall that we've gotten and the absolute insane flooding, just how it's impacting them now?
Yes, great question. In fact, I'm headed off to Tofield after this press conference where they've had some terrible flooding. I've already been on the phone with the Reeve and some of the other local representatives. Damien Currick, the former member of Parliament, hopefully future member of Parliament, is actively engaged and has been giving me regular briefings. And so they've been telling me that, like, it depends where they are. Tofield is really bad, extremely bad. But in other places, they're saying that if they get some heat units in the next 3 or 4 weeks, then the saturated soils could really blossom some incredible crops. So it really does, when you're asking me what they're saying, that's what they're saying. I was also reminding them that our approach is to get rid of all gas taxes for the rest of the year to save 25 cents a liter, 20 bucks a fill up for a truck. Obviously, they all drive trucks. And about $1,200 between now and Christmas. And they thought that was a big help because, of course, one of the biggest costs for farming is fuel. So let's get those fuel prices down so that farmers can farm affordably. I'll have more to tell you when I'm finished meeting with the Tofield residents in a couple hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Aidan Sheikh, Canberra's Booster. Now, you've been our MP for almost a year now. What is one of the biggest concerns that you hear from our constituents, and what are you doing about it?
Well, I would say the overall concern is affordability. People are working harder and harder, but they just can't make it. Young people are struggling to buy homes. Houses used to be really cheap in rural Alberta. You could buy a really nice house for $150,000. Now they've more than doubled. So the youth think, they ask themselves, how long will I have to save up to buy a home? Produce is really expensive at the grocery store. So a lot of mothers are saying that they've had to downgrade the diets of their kids. Seniors are cutting back on what they can afford to eat. And of course, fuel prices have been high, partly because our dollar is so low, and that hurts rural people more than anyone because, of course, they've got longer distances to drive, and the goods they buy have to come longer distances to get here. So I would say the number one overall, our overarching concern is affordability, and that's why I've made affordability our top 3 conservative priorities.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you.
Bonjour Monsieur Poilievre, une question en français s'il vous plaît, Mathéo Delatte, Radio-Canada.
Merci.
Est-ce que la formule du pipeline proposée par Mark Carney aujourd'hui a de quoi calmer les ambitions séparatistes de l'Alberta?
Tout d'abord, on n'a pas vu la proposition. Province dans
for the new oil pipeline from Alberta to
au sein d'un Canada uni.
Thank you. Next question.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Lena. I'm with CBC. I just have a question. Alberta, BC, and the federal government all seem to be on side with a plan for the new oil pipeline from Alberta to the West Coast. Do you now believe this pipeline will be built, and what do you think of the agreement between the federal government and BC to keep the North Coast oil tanker ban in place?
So I can't answer the first part of your question because I haven't seen the final agreement. When we do, we'll respond accordingly. I think the North Coast ban is ridiculous. American tankers travel through those same Pacific waters all the time, from Alaska to the U.S. West Coast. So why does Mark Carney believe it's safe for our American tankers carrying American oil from Alaska to California is safe, but it's not safe for us to send Canadian oil over to Asia through the same passages? Secondly, it takes about 36 hours less time to get to Asia from northern BC as it does from southern BC. And that's because of the curvature of the Earth. It's just simple geometry. The further north you go, the shorter the curve you have to travel to get to the other side of the pond. And so that's why we believe that the best place to put a pipeline is to Prince Rupert or Kitimat, which can take 1 million barrels mostly to Asia. We don't want a pipeline that will simply lead tankers to take the oil south down to the California West Coast. We're trying to diversify here. So the best way to diversify is by permitting a pipeline from Hardisty, Alberta to Prince Rupert or Kitimat to ship 1 million barrels a day over to Asia. And we hope that the Prime Minister will signal his willingness to grant such a permit today. D'accord. Le nord-ouest de la Colombie-Britannique fait le plus grand sens de façon géographique du monde. Moi, j'éliminerais l'interdiction de pouvoir acheminer le pétrole dans le nord de la Colombie-Britannique parce que les Américains le font déjà dans les mêmes eaux. Donc, pourquoi est-ce qu'on permet les grands navires américains de traverser dans ces chemins-là et on bannit les Canadiens de faire exactement la même chose? C'est ridicule. On devrait donner le feu vert aux pipelines vers le sud de la Colombie-Britannique, vers le nord de la Colombie-Britannique et dans toutes les directions et permettre les investisseurs, les entrepreneurs et les travailleurs de la bâtir avec de l'argent privé.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
Hello, Elliot with City News Edmonton. Obviously, you want that pipeline going through North BC. How would you go about accomplishing that? Just telling people in BC and those who are against the pipeline, too bad, Alberta and Canada need this? Just kind of wondering what your vision is to getting that done.
Well, first of all, we have to point out that British Columbians want the pipeline. They overwhelmingly support it. All the public opinion research shows that the vast majority of British Columbians support pipelines from Alberta to the Pacific. There's a radical group of fake environmentalists who've been fighting oil and gas for the last 15 years and have had the ear of the Liberal government in Ottawa. Frankly, they can have their say, but they can't have their way. There is no environmental argument against a pipeline to the northern BC ports. There is no environmental argument for it. If there were, we wouldn't be letting Americans take their tankers through those very same waters. And so why not lift the tanker ban, permit a pathway, and invite the private sector to come along and build? Obviously, they'd have to follow all the necessary environmental rules to protect against dangers, but we know that by far the safest and most environmentally responsible way to ship oil is by pipeline, far safer than shipping it by rail. And so, at the end of the day, There's nothing, the only thing stopping the pipeline from going ahead is the federal government. It's a strictly federal permit. There is no provincial permitting for an interprovincial project. It's right in the Constitution. Anything that crosses provincial boundaries is federal. So you got one guy standing in the way of it all, and that's Mark Carney. Our view is he needs to get out of the way and permit all proposals. By the way, I'm not against another pipeline going to the southern part of British Columbia. Provide the permit, let the private sector build it, get out of the way, and get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be the last question now.
I'll try to keep it really brief. Do you support the construction of the Pathways project as a condition of the West Coast pipeline?
I don't think it should be a condition at all. Absolutely not. We'll see what they propose, but I personally believe that this. I'll have more to say when I see what they propose, but I will make one thing very clear: for the federal government to force Albertans to spend billions of dollars on this project as a condition of building a highly productive and profitable pipeline is unfair. What the federal government needs to do is get rid of all these conditions, get rid of the industrial carbon tax, the anti-development laws, the pathways requirement, and let the private sector build this pipeline with private money.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes today's press conference.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so we got some outstanding timing because in 1 minute we are going to have the next live with Mark Carney and the Philippines president, Marcos Jr. Marcos Jr. Oh, okay. I was getting prepared for thing. 5:15 today. Danielle Smith will hold a news conference. She's a star politician. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew, who is one of the upcoming. He's got brought that international European delegation into the province. And this is kind of news to me, which is, this is the downside of not watching the nightly news. I imagine it's on, so it's secure. We're almost live in a second here. But there's flooding. I actually know that it's incorrect. There's some towns I did see a little bit on the CBC News, a little bit of flooding. But he's at 6:30 today. Wab Kinew will have a live conference about the flooding, and the last time he did a pretty good job when they had the fires. He was out there, they had him doing pictures.
Yan, okay na yan.
They're doing
okay.
sound check. The sound check guy is doing this thing here.
May isa pa eh. Itong isa, ano itong mataas to? Malbaba, ano yan?
Or maybe it's security, actually.
Yeah, well, it wasn't
like glad to say. Oh no, maybe it's just it's their Philippines TV. Just Philippines.
Patay mo muna nga ako yun. Hindi ko alam eh. Kung off muna. Turn off. Turn off.
Turn it off. All right, so we turned it off. There we go. All right, I didn't do it. Didn't show them. Kept that one. So it's so it's gonna be Philippines, and who knows what the time is? I don't think we're gonna be able to. It may not be. It may be a while for that. Unfortunately, the timings didn't work out. They said 4:30, but it's politicians. Politicians have their own time. And it's always best when you think about what the politicians. It's not a train. They're not trains. They're politicians. They come when they come. And I don't mean to be any awful reference, but it's always the case. I find it quite often. Very few, seldom are very much on time. Trump is one of the few who's on time, but not always. Sometimes it's like, you're like, oh my God. Especially the beginning of his thing, now he's getting tighter. I think that's a personal trait. But my belief is what happens is a lot of things get in their way. Good things, but they're very important, big monolith move mountain type thing that, okay, it's only going to take 30 seconds, sir. Can I have 30 seconds of your time, sir? Now that we both together, so, and it's like, holy crap. Well, there's a minute and a half, takes time. This is the political game. Part of the reason why it's politics is a tough game. Bouncing around, like, look, Pierre, at the feed today, he was in Camrose. That probably has something to do, more than anything, with the Camrose internet. Rural internet stinks. Camrose ain't, it ain't one of the metropolitans of Canada. So I don't want to bash it, but it's a factor. We all know it's a troubled area. It was a pretty good day today for politics. Pierre got his anger out. Doesn't have too much noodles to stick to the wall here. That's the thing. It's just there's been lots of butter in those noodles because today Eby has got the happiness, and it was good if you think about what he did. The billions of dollars, $10 billion in the Vancouver port going into the export side. Only the export side developed that, helped to get, things. It's more about timings, getting, more cranes and all that stuff. More efficient use. It had nothing to do with no other political angle except getting product out faster. But that's just like what every company wants to hear, like product out faster. Oh, simple, understandable. And how much are you going to spend? $10 billion? Yes. They're like, okay, this is it. When you look at the map, I look at the map with everything, and the hydro map is the best one because hydropower is the best really power if you can get it, right? And everyone can get it if they haven't done it yet. It's just the case. Every area. And so you look at new development of it, and it's like 7% down in South America, 14% in Africa, which is, surprisingly good. 17% in Europe. We're somewhere like 20. Asia is at 40%. China at like 60% development of hydro, and that's hydropower. So that coincides with everything. So this is the Asia is a powerhouse. There's already had the population because their climate and location, they can support and eating seafood, huge populations. And now they're in the technical material world with us. It's just growing so fast. So Vancouver, when Canada started back in the day, Halifax was the super shore because we were selling to the old Europeans, and now it's the other shore. BC is really about to shine because Indonesia is like a good country. They have the population of America. They're nowhere near that level, but how fast they're growing. It's faster than China was growing, and what a great place, and then growing in a lot better ways, more free and happier ways, less constrictive than any other political area. I won't, don't want to get into that conversation. So that Philippines is another one. Obviously, we're waiting to discuss that. It's still waiting for the live event. The Philippines have a major demand for oil, huge demand for oil, hydrogen maybe. Natural gas converted to hydrogen is what I think they should be looking at more. But LNG works as a step because their islands, LNG really would help. If Canada got their act together, if Carney gets his act together, and really does an LNG hydrogen deal with the Philippines, it really could step it. And I would tax the crap out of it, honestly, and put all of that tax development into the hydrogen, into blue hydrogen, which is taking it out of water, using wind or turbine or tidal, like something like 0, or 0.1% damage compared to whatever. And it converts it, that way instead of using any other way. We're not there yet. They're close. They're really close to having that technology, but it's going to take a lot of money, and it's going to be the oil companies that are going to be. They just naturally know more about it, so they're more best aligned, I believe, to do that instead of fighting these companies. Help them. Realize the energy of the future, help the world realize the energy of the future, because they're already there, They know a lot of the chemical processes and stuff like that, and have the expertise in doing that part of the business. You have other expertise. But they won't need that. So okay, we got pictures up. But the Philippines needs LNG. They need oil. Big time. They are a major. I think they even use coal as well. And all these things, Canada, if we have proper shipping and deals with them, which we do. I don't want to put that guy on there. Don't know. Don't happen there. Oh, this guy's up. So they don't. We're bouncing back. They don't know where they're going to go. There's the one place with flowers. Another auditorium place. It's actually yeah, I guess that's not that they were. Oh, they're probably signing something there. They're going to sign a deal. But they need energy. So does Japan as well. But Japan has a lot of other, more of a deal going on personally right now with America. In Alaska, they have a big sway with the steel as well, kind of really big trouble. Philippines didn't get involved with that. They're a smaller player. More of a better fit with Canada. I believe Philippines and Canada are more closely aligned. They're very Americanized, big American bases. Philippines is America, right? America is very westernized, I should say. I mean, not America. All right. So we're still waiting on it, I guess. There we go. So it's something going on. No corridor. So they're going to do something. But yeah, it was a big thing that they were talking about. One of the pundits there mentioning about how they have a major oil problem. Okay, so it's going back and forth to these two different locations. So they're going to sign a deal. You can see the pens, the nice flowers. So you can buy yourself flowers. And they're going to take some questions out of the nice wood-carved maple leaf podiums with the Philippine flags intermingled with Canadian flags. I don't know what they're going to do. Hopefully it's going to be with natural gas deal. The largest Canadian natural gas facility is it actually came under under Trudeau was a deal with Japan. I think it was $50 billion it cost, or they spent, or in total investment, something in that number. It was $50 billion, Japan, and Japan or Japanese company. I'm not sure exactly. And this would be it would be good that we have something like that with Philippines. It would be nice. Hopefully that, same thing, because they're in a major demand for it. And if anything gets any more shifty again, Canada's is very reliable. If the world goes haywire, Canada will remain to be reliable, most likely, than a lot of other places, right? Like, infiltrate Canada. Yeah, walk 10,000 kilometers, and in the weather, our summer weather can take out someone from born in California. Like, we got a storm coming for a week. I mean, in our wilds, right? Okay, so we have they have the entourage is showing up. There's the housing minister. Narrative sometimes is very good, and the counter narrative against it is so good that they're like, we can't. We got to just let it go, because we can't fight these baloney waters, right? Or we don't want to. I think I don't know what's going on with the gravy plane. They'll do it. They'll just do it quietly, privately, and the other side will be like, yeah, we see, So, Canada has a lot going on in the north, and you can't expect a large piece of the planes to get in, and that's why, just that alone, never mind the bouncing around, I think it would be help, because Ontario's a big, one plane isn't really that expensive. It's not like the 70s, when these things were like, oh, no, it's like they've come down. But so it's all the liberals. There's a lot of liberals in the room. Yeah, so like you're saying, the housing minister is the man with a ticket to 3,000 condos. He is the condo man right now. His phone is probably ringing. Ears now. All right, I don't know why. It's, I think here they come. Oh, and on. There we go. Kevin. Oh, no, that's not Kevin. We got Miller. He's doing something with that. I don't 100% agree. I don't like the idea of his plan. I think the premise is great, like, protect the children online. It's, but I think what they should do is have a government account that kids sign into, and there's prizes and games and Canadian-wide things, and it's connected to the schools, and there's, like, heavy police presence within that, embedded in it, built with Google and Apple and all the wonderful elves and wizards, Microsoft, of course, all together for that. So each kid under 16, they have an account, and they win stuff, and they win prizes, and they get accolades, and they get likes, AI whatever. That give them incentivize that generation to go on it, or else they're fighting the current wave. Just give them all. They all swim in the currents and make it as pleasant as possible. But also just a nice frame that isn't the whole picture, because they're there online to do things, right? But the idea of the browser protection is, Google can already do it. It's already done, right, to a hard level, and Apple as well, and Microsoft as well. But maybe we want a higher standard that's connected with the police departments, local, federal, and province. I'm thinking state. That to me would make sense. And you have it. So the kids, when they're online, they're going to sign into that because, hey, I'm going to win that prize, whatever, I'm going to win the new e-bike or that new drone. How do I shut these people up, this guy's saying? How do I get there? There's the housing minister. The man with the 3,000 condos right there. He's got the keys. The man with the keys. You said it was very.
Distinguished guests, please welcome the Right Honourable Mark Carney, Minister of Canada, and His Excellency Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., President of the Republic of the Philippines. Veuillez accueillir le très honorable Mark Carney, Premier Ministre du Canada, et Son Excellence Monsieur Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., President de la République des Philippines. Environment and Natural Resources. Pour le Canada, le honorable Anita Anand, ministère des Affaires étrangères, et pour la République des Philippines,
I don't know.
le secrétaire
They just cut to this signing here. Marco!
Minister Anand and Secretary Puna are signing the joint declaration of intent concerning energy and natural resources between Canada and the Philippines. La ministre Anand et le secrétaire Puna signent la déclaration conjointe d'intention concernant les énergies et les ressources naturelles entre le Canada et les Philippines. Welcome the next signatories. For Canada, the Honourable Mark Miller, Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture and Minister responsible for official languages. And for the Republic of the Philippines, Dr. Eric Zerudo, Chairman and Executive Director of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. Veuillez maintenant accueillir les prochains signataires. Pour le Canada, le Honorable Mark Miller, Ministre de l'Identité et de la Culture canadien et Ministre responsable de la langue officielle. Et pour la République des Philippines, Dr. Eric Zerudo, Président et Directeur exécutif de la Commission nationale pour la culture et les arts. The Minister and Dr. Zerudo are signing a Memorandum of Understanding on Cultural Cooperation for the years 2026 to 2031. Le ministre et le Dr. Zerudo signent un protocole d'entente sur la collaboration culturelle pour la période 2026 à 2031. Now, please welcome the next signatories. For Canada, the Honourable Reshi Valdez, Minister of Women and Gender Equality and Secretary of State for Small Business and Tourism. And for the Republic of the Philippines, Her Excellency Maria Teresa Lazaro, Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of the Philippines.
It's like the Olympics and they're all getting medals.
For Canada, le Honorable Reshi Valdez, Ministre des Femmes et de l'Égalité des Genres et Secrétaire d'État aux petites entreprises et tourisme. Et pour la République des Philippines, Son Excellence Maria Teresa Lazaro, Secrétaire aux Affaires étrangères de la République des Philippines. The Minister and the Secretary are signing the Memorandum of Understanding on Tourism Cooperation. La ministre et le secrétaire signent le protocole d'entente concernant la coopération en matière de tourisme. Now, please welcome the next signatories. For Canada, the Honourable Anita Anand, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and for the Republic of the Philippines, Secretary Hans Leo J. Kaktak, Department of Migrant Workers. Veuillez maintenant accueillir les prochains signataires. Pour le Canada, le Honorable Anita Anand, Ministre des Affaires étrangères, et pour la République des Philippines, le Secrétaire Hans Leo J. Kaktak, Ministère des Travailleurs migrants. Minister Anand and Secretary Kaktak are signing a joint declaration of intent concerning labor and migration cooperation. La ministre Anand et le secrétaire Kaktak signent une déclaration conjointe en tension concernant la coopération en matière de travail et de migration. This concludes the official signing ceremony. Merci. Ceci conclut la cérémonie de signature officielle. Leaders, I would like to invite you to take your place at the podiums. We will now proceed with the press conference. Thank you. This concludes the official signing ceremony. Merci. Ceci conclut la cérémonie de signature officielle. Leaders, I would like to invite you to take your place at the podiums. We will now proceed with the press conference.
You are entering the Twilight Zone. Overlap, dewlap.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Bonjour tout le monde. President Marcos, it is a great honor, a great pleasure to welcome you to Vancouver in an official capacity, welcome you back to British Columbia. I trust that you will feel at home here because the Filipino community is at the very heart of Canada. Canada is home to more than 1 million Filipino Canadians. There are nearly 200,000 Filipino Canadians who reside right here in beautiful British Columbia. There are doctors, our nurses, our caregivers who help Canadians in their most critical moments. There are entrepreneurs, businesses that in some cases have become the gathering places for families and friends. Local restaurants here in Vancouver, Plato Filipino, global icons like Jollibee, where we will be going. We just had a working lunch. We didn't eat at our working lunch, so we'll be going to Jollibee to get some real sustenance. Filipino culture is proudly celebrated in the music, the dance, the art of our festivals. Kamayan Fest, Pinoy Festival, and Filipino Canadians join also when there's tragedy, as we joined a little more than a year ago to support each other after the Lapu-Lapu tragedy not far from here. Mr. President, we are one people, united in diversity and our humanity. And Filipino Canadians are also helping to lead our nation, including my colleague, Richie Valdez, Canada's first Filipina member of Parliament, our first Filipina cabinet minister. The community, the Filipino community, has helped build the Canada that we know today. A Canada that's stronger, it's richer, it's more vibrant because of the people who've chosen to make it their home. And this relationship extends across the Pacific to the Philippines, where we share an enduring friendship and now a deepening trade and security relationship. And it's that community that's part of the bridge, as you said, that links our two countries together, and that relationship on which we are building today. This visit comes at an important moment, a pivotal moment for Canada, for the Philippines, and our peoples. The world is more dangerous, it's more divided. Old alliances are being tested as new threats emerge. And at the same time, as we discussed, new opportunities are opening up in commerce, in technology, in energy, and in our culture. And so in a rapidly changing world, what Canada is doing is deepening our partnerships with countries who share our values and our ambitions. And to that end, we're deepening our trade and investment across ASEAN, the fastest growing region in the world. And nowhere is that more important than under your leadership, President Marcos, your leadership, your presidency of ASEAN. We're moving with determination to conclude negotiations of our Canada-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement by the summit this year. This agreement, once constituted, will reduce tariffs, in some cases fully eliminate them for our exports, help give Canadian workers and businesses access to a $5 trillion market of over 700 million people. Crucially, we're also working hard to finalize negotiations on the Canada-Philippines Free Trade Agreement. You and I committed or intended last year when we met for the first time bilaterally to look to conclude that agreement this year. We're making good progress. It's an enormous opportunity to deepen that partnership, as I said at the start. The Philippines is one of Southeast Asia's fastest growing economies, and if it's one of Southeast Asia's fastest growing economies, it's one of the world's fastest growing economies. A population of almost 120 million people. We have a prospect of tripling our bilateral trade, both directions, by 2035. Great opportunities for our business. And really, this free trade agreement would be the foundation of our new Canada-Philippines strategic partnership. We're launching a new era of cooperation, deepening our collaboration in trade and energy, defense, and tourism. And as part of this partnership, we're announcing a joint declaration of intent on energy and natural resource cooperation and a new technical assistance partnership. We're already ourselves amongst the world's largest critical minerals producers. We're one of the top 5 global producers in 10 different critical minerals. You're one of the largest exporters of nickel ore, major producers.
I want to pause this live video for a brief second to note, to make everyone sure, make sure you're aware, this is not AI, this is live Carney.
Of minerals like cobalt and copper, and we share your objective
like
to increase not just the production but the processing of these essential materials.
It would be incorrect.
Ensemble, le Canada et les Philippines mettent à profit leurs ressources pour renforcer les chaînes d'approvisionnement en minéraux critiques et pour offrir davantage de minéraux critiques du Canada et des Philippines sur les marchés mondiaux. Now, economic cooperation is not enough. It has to be underpinned, reinforced by shared security. And that's why we're deepening our collaboration in marine, maritime security and in multinational military operations. We'll soon ratify the Status of Visiting Forces Agreement, enabling our armed forces to train and operate more closely through joint military exercises in both of our countries, reinforcing our collective security. Nous allons resserrer les liens entre nos populations qui unissent depuis longtemps nos deux pays, car les relations entre le Canada et les Philippines ne reposent pas seulement sur le commerce, mais aussi sur les personnes. Aujourd'hui, nous avons signé 2 protocoles d'accord visant à stimuler le tourisme afin de permettre aux gens du Canada et des Philippines de découvrir plus facilement tout ce que nos pays ont à offrir. We've also signed an important joint declaration of intent on labor and migration to strengthen protection for migrant workers and to promote ethical recruitment. Filipino workers make extraordinary contributions to communities across the world and across Canada. And when they're here, we will ensure they are treated fairly, can work safely, and have their rights protected. So, together, we're building a future where peace is sustained through cooperation, where prosperity is shared, and where opportunity is open to all. A future built through partnership. President Marcos, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your leadership of your country, of ASEAN, and thank you for your leadership on the global stage. Thank you for joining us to build our future together. Thank you.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister Mark Carney, the esteemed members of the Canadian and Philippine delegations, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, a good afternoon to you all, and a belated Happy Canada Day to all our Canadian friends. I am so pleased to be able to visit Canada upon the invitation of Prime Minister Carney and to have the opportunity to meet him here in British Columbia. Arriving in British Columbia carries a deep symbolic significance, as the first documented Filipino arrival in Canada happened in this province's Bowen Island in 1861. Prime Minister Carney and I had a one-on-one meeting this morning where we discussed the positive trajectory of our bilateral relations and the ways forward to ensure a sustained and dynamic partnership. This was followed by an expanded bilateral meeting together with our delegations. Today, I am pleased to announce the elevation of our bilateral relationship to a strategic partnership. We have tasked our foreign ministers to draw up a plan of action to pursue our shared commitment to work together in adapting to shifting global realities, addressing shared challenges, and building capacities for future-ready partnership. We recognize that robust defense and security cooperation underpins the strong momentum of our relations. Recent milestones in this pillar underscore the shared commitment of our countries in ensuring that our peoples continue to live in peaceful and secure regions. We translate these aspirations into tangible and operational commitments. We welcome the signing of the Status of Visiting Forces Agreement in November 2025 in Manila, the signing of the Mutual Logistics Support Arrangement, and the Statement of Intent on strengthening defense cooperation between the Philippines and Canada just 2 weeks ago in Ottawa. A strategic partnership is defined not just by deep and close relations, but also by the reliability of that partnership. To this end, we spoke about the importance of peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific and Canada's increasing engagement in the region under its Indo-Pacific strategy. I commend the IPS and emphasize the importance on building its initiatives both at the bilateral and multilateral levels. I also thank Canada for its dark vessel detection program, which was deployed to the Philippines under the strategy to aid the country in combating illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing and increase maritime domain awareness. I conveyed keen interest in the continuation of the DVD program in Philippine waters. As the Philippines celebrates the 10th anniversary of the 2016 Arbitral Tribunal Award on the South China Sea, I thank Canada for its vocal and consistent support for a rules-based order in the South China Sea under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, and in upholding the arbitral award as final and legally binding. Tomorrow, I will meet with several business leaders and key players in the Canadian mining, IT BPM, and energy sectors. Canadian businesses, including those in said sectors, have been largely successful in the Philippines. I look forward to discussing more opportunities for deeper commercial ties between our two countries. Prime Minister Carney and I reaffirmed our commitment to conclude the negotiations for a bilateral free trade agreement this year, as we also negotiate the ASEAN-Canada Free Trade Agreement. We renewed our commitment to increase our bilateral trade, stand against economic coercion, and build a resilient supply chain. We are pleased to witness the signing of the Joint Declaration of Intent on Energy and Natural Resources Cooperation. Before I return home, I will meet with the Filipino community. I am glad to see and hear from our Canadian friends that the 1 million strong Filipinos in Canada are valued and respected for their contributions to the Canadian society, the economy, and government. They serve as the heart and soul of the strategic partnership between the Philippines and of Canada. To unleash this full potential, it is essential that Filipino professionals are able to practice their professions in Canada. In this regard, we will convey our hope that Canada's federal and provincial governments will continue working together to address the barriers to the recognition of the credentials of Philippine-educated professionals. I am also glad to have witnessed today the signing of bilateral understandings and declarations of cooperation in the areas of tourism, culture, and labor and migration. These agreements will help us harness the strong people-to-people ties between our two countries as we jointly build capacities and create a mutually beneficial talent pipeline for the future. I would like to thank Prime Minister Carney and the members of the delegation for the warm welcome and productive discussions that we have had today. Prime Minister Carney, I look forward to welcoming you for the 49th ASEAN Summit and related summits in Manila in November. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, and good afternoon.
Philippine side, first question, Global News. Go ahead.
I think there's a bit of a delay before it comes, but it'll get there.
This is a question for Prime Minister Carney. It's about the pipelines. Paul Johnson from Global News of BC. It seems like we're learning about this new pipeline through a process of deduction today. BC's not going to oppose it. It's not going to be on the North Coast. This leaves us kind of one place, I would think, the body of water that's behind you. Now, I expect you don't want to steal the thunder of the Premier of Alberta, but This is going to be a really big deal for BC. Any details you could share with us here on where this pipeline is likely going to go?
Well, thank you for framing the question that way. No, I don't want to steal the thunder from the Premier of Alberta, who is rightly the catalyst behind this, the proponent, if you will, or will identify the proponent. There will be a media availability in a few hours in Alberta. We'll go through that. I think what's important about the agreement that we announced here today, and I'm going to paraphrase Premier Eby because I entirely agree. It's an agreement that is transformative. It's comprehensive. It's ambitious. It moves to realize the full potential of British Columbia and Canada as a gateway to Asia, and across all forms of energy, across critical minerals, across a huge expansion of trade capacity, Port of Vancouver, much improved logistics, including commute times for long-suffering families here in the Lower Mainland through Massey Tunnel. And I think what is particularly instructive, and I'll end here, is that it is happening on a day when President Marcos is here. President's visit was the anchor for today's announcement. I was always coming here, the Premier coming to see the President, because of the importance of these ties and some of the potential and how we're going to build on those ties. That is part of what we as a country, as Canada, can realize, bringing together our people-to-people ties, 1 million Filipino Canadians, with our commercial and cultural opportunities, and you saw that in the accords signed moments ago. Thank you.
Prochaine question. Next question to the Philippines.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and Mr. Prime Minister. My name is Becopin. I am from Rappler. You've both spoken on the importance of middle powers working together amid superpower competition, disruptions to the rules-based international order. So I wonder, do you think existing multilateral and unilateral arrangements are enough? Are they working? What role do you think superpowers then, like the US and China, should be playing? And since the Prime Minister mentioned that old alliances are being tested, does it then still make sense to see the United States as a reliable partner? Thank you.
For the Prime Minister or for?
For both of you, sirs.
For both.
Well, I'll start. Why don't I start, and let me underscore something the President said a moment ago, referencing the importance of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, something to which we are a signatory and we absolutely uphold, and we uphold the decisions and squarely back the decisions of 2016 that are directly relevant to the territorial waters and activities of the Philippines. First point. These types of arrangements, UNCLOS is one very important example. There are many others. Canada is still fully subscribes to them, fully supports them, and will continue to support them. They're not enough, of course. What also has to happen is that like-minded partners are working together across a wide range of areas, which is why today's series of announcements are another step of importance in our bilateral relationships. It's also important that groupings such as ASEAN are effective under the President's leadership, that they're effective in commercial and other areas. It's important that we look for areas together. We've had some of these discussions on topical issues, whether it's cyber, security, other aspects, where new partnerships can be formed. And then it brings to the last, or the first bit of your question, if I may, which is around the role of the hegemons, the United States and China. Of course, we have deep relationships, each of us, with the United States. There is a stronger commercial relationship, if I may, you can speak to it, with Philippines and China because of proximity and others. We look to use those relationships to reinforce the first aspects of what I discussed. All of those are important, and the responsibility of middle powers, I'll speak for Canada, is to reinforce the rules-based order, update it where possible, to build alliances, partnerships in areas where like-minded countries can cooperate, because that strengthens ourselves, but it also strengthens the system. And yes, cooperate with the hegemons wherever possible to reinforce the first two. Thank you.
Well, the Philippines and Canada are in full agreement about the necessity of these bilateral and multilateral agreements that we have spoken about. With the volatility in the geopolitical world in the past years, I think it is a necessary development, not only for Canada and the Philippines, but for other like-minded countries who still continue to believe in international, still hew close to international law and a rules-based international system. Whether or not it's going to be enough is another question, because it's very hard to say, again, because of the volatility and the changes that will undoubtedly come in the future, that will be unexpected and that we cannot predict the nature of necessarily. And so, again, it is very, very clear, I think, to most countries and the leaders of those countries that these bilateral and multilateral exchanges and alliances and partnerships become necessary, so that when we face the volatility that I spoke about, that we are facing it from a much larger base, as it were, which will bring us hopefully the stability and will give us the options to adjust. We have two differing forces that we have to balance here. One is to be stable, and at the same time we have to be agile. And the way to do that is to have these firm partnerships and firm agreements between countries, both bilaterally and multilaterally, but at the same time to keep the communications between all our partners very, very active. In that way, we can move together and we can react together. And again, it will give us a stronger base to work from, to maintain that stability, to maintain the peace. And this is all what we are working for. And I continue to believe that it is the right direction to take.
Next question. Prochaine question to Canada.
Teresa Barrera, Omni TV Filipino News. Hello, Mr. Prime Minister and Mr. President. With a potential free trade agreement on the horizon, how can Canadians and Filipinos ensure that companies and systems involved in future free trade uphold values such as honesty, dignity of human rights, and non-corruption?
Thank you for that question, because it goes to the heart of our values, and it's one of the reasons why we look to pursue deeper commercial ties, deeper security and other ties with the Philippines. These commitments to exactly that: human rights, dignity in work, and the fight against corruption in all its forms. Let me just give one example from today, which is the importance of the protocol just signed in terms of workers' rights in Canada. If I may suggest, this is the first of its kind that has been struck. It's been struck because of the value we both place on this issue. It provides a framework for, I would hope, future accords with other jurisdictions, and we as Canada will work to uphold, without question, these rights and be accountable if that is not the case. And I think that, and I'll stop on this, which is one of the values of your role and those of you in the media is part of that accountability. We have parliamentary accountability, we have accountability directly to stakeholders, and of course accountability through the media. It's a story that doesn't get written if we uphold those rights, but we would like that to be the case, because that's our full intention.
Yes, the sharing of those values of the respect for human rights and the respect for reliability in terms of our dealings it serves as a basis for all that we are doing together, not only between the Philippines and Canada, but Philippines Canada together as we engage the rest of the world. And so it is very much from that that base that we start from, because we share the same values when it comes to the different issues that concern our governments and our citizens, and we share the aspirations in terms of what we would like to achieve in the world. And again, that is a very, very important part of what we are doing, because without that, none of these agreements, none of these partnerships, none of these alliances would be possible, because it is only with like-minded partners that we can come to these agreements, and that is why we will continue to promote those ideals, we will promote those values, and we will continue to abide by an international legally led actions as we go forward.
Thank you. We'll do the last question. Dernière question to the Philippines.
Hi, good afternoon, President Marcos and Prime Minister Carney. To both leaders, the Philippines' new middle-income status is somewhat a seal of good housekeeping and a coming out of the country to the international markets and the business community, in particular investments from Canada. For some, economic growth is not the main attraction to engagement, but there are also qualitative criteria, which is similarly related to the previous question, good governance, upholding human rights, and anti-corruption efforts. So how important are these factors in convincing Canadian investors to stay for the long haul in the Philippines, and how can Canada and the Philippines enhance confidence-building measures to reach the goal?
May I start?
I guess,
yeah.
should I?
Okay, go.
Actually, your media,
All right.
That's a good point.
Well, I think, as you say, it is a form of seal of good housekeeping in the sense that we are recognized that the economic policies that we have undertaken has led us to this. I don't know how you would call it, a heightening of confidence in our economy, and that, I think, that comes from the fact that the Philippines has, in the last 4 years, worked very, very hard to make the Philippines a more investment-friendly destination for both locals and for our friends around the world. And it derived from that was our very early decision, very, very, very early on in my administration, that the private sector is recognized as a full partner in national development, and that has led us to the FTA now that we are talking about with Canada, and to the other 20 plus FTAs that we have been able to come to and sign in the last 4 years. If you remember that we have been a low. Yes, we were still in the lower strata of the middle-income economy since 1987, and it is just as well that it is about time that we moved up that strata. We have changed that category somewhat. We certainly still have a ways to go. But I think that in terms of economic growth, and in terms of being able to identify the sectors in our economy and in our government as well, that need to be amended, that need to be modified, that need to be modernized, really. And that, I think, that is what led to the World Bank giving us that recognition. Now that changes the rules a little bit for us, because we have to become less dependent on just straight out foreign grants, for example. I do not worry. We were discussing this earlier today. And I don't think that it will lead to an increase in interest rates for loans, for example, but we do believe the effect will be on the grants that are given. But nonetheless, that means in a way that can be interpreted as the World Bank saying you no longer need that, and we will replace that with investment, and that I think is a very, very important development for the Philippines and its economy.
Well, I agree with everything the President just said. It is a look. Let's take the good with the good. It is a positive sign for the Philippines. This graduation. This doesn't happen. It's not something that reflects the latest economic statistic, a good quarter. It is something more broad and development that's been built over the course of the recent years. And if I may suggest as well, also the recognition of the importance of the private sector as a partner in overall development. Now, within that context, to your question, yes, rule of law, respect for human rights, transparency, all those elements are increasingly important they're important fundamentally, but they become very important as an economy develops. That's part of the positive aspect. Agreements such as we're moving forward on today, including prospect of a free trade agreement, are reinforcing for all those factors. So there's momentum here and this is I'll leave it with this, which is this is what progress is you get self-reinforcing momentum, you continue to raise the bar, you have partners who move up with you, and that's what's happening with Canada and Philippines today. So it's a good day. Thank you very much. Merci
Thank you,
beaucoup.
Prime Minister. Thank you, President. Let's go to our press conference. C'est ce qui met fin à notre conférence de presse. Merci.
Families here in the lower mainland through Massey Tunnel. And I think what is particularly instructive, and I'll end here, is that it is happening on a day when President Marcos is here. President's visit was the anchor for today's announcement. I was always coming here, the Premier coming to see the President, because of the importance of these ties and some of the potential and how we're going to build on those ties. That is part of what we as a country, as Canada, can realize, bringing together our people-to-people ties, 1 million Filipino Canadians, with our commercial and cultural opportunities. And you saw that in the accords signed moments ago. Thank you.
Prochaine question. Next question to the Philippines.
Right. Sorry about that. We got some good timing, though. Danielle Smith is starting her announcement. And where are these pipelines going? What is going on? Are they these ambitions of pipelines and natural gas lines out of Alberta, will they be realized soon? Do we have something? Okay, here she is.
Looking at jurisdictions that did
behind here.
Everyone who helped make today possible, thank you. We're excited to begin.
Used to is going to be maintained while this happens.
Yeah, I had it.
Okay, sorry here.
Question just about data centers in general. I know this is about the power for them, but I think when
projects like Greenlight to move forward.
Our highly skilled workforce and a supportive regulatory environment.
Just getting it now. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Get excited. Oh, one more minute here. It's just starting live. Of course, Alberta. Premier Smith's been very busy lately, dealing with the separatists issue within her party. Some of it. Some of it. Now this is like I'm doing. It's moving 10 seconds time. Well, it's looks to be leaning towards stay, but she hasn't had a lot of help over there. It's unreal. It's all right, here we go.
And we believe our province can compete with any jurisdiction on earth. We're determined to attract data centers to Alberta, and we're going to do everything we can to position our province as a favorable location. But we also have an obligation to protect the reliability and integrity of our own power grid. And that means new large industrial power users will need to bring their own sources of power into the provincial system. The Greenlight Electricity Centre serves as a perfect example of this approach. By having data centers bring their own generation and pay for related power infrastructure, this framework ensures that projects like this one will actually reduce transmission costs on Alberta's utility bills. Thank you, and I'd now like to invite Minister R.J. Sigurdsson to share more details on this great project.
Well, thank you, Premier, and good afternoon, everyone. Today is about building for Alberta's future while ensuring we have the electricity to support that future. The announcement of the final investment decision on the Greenlight Electricity Centre reflects not only an incredible interest in data centres in our province, but the shared commitment to bringing the electricity needed to power these facilities and our province into the future, all while protecting the reliability and affordability of power for Albertans. That's exactly what we set out to do when we brought in our Bring Your Own Power model.
Our asset footprint. Greenlight is a tangible example of work tirelessly to get to this point. Class project, Alberta.
Thank you. We'll now enter our media Q&A portion of the announcement.
Sorry,
reminder
another
to
Alberta
in the room. We'll be taking one question and one follow-up.
I don't know why.
And please state your name and outlet
Prime Minister
before asking your question.
was great.
We'll start off here in the room. Go ahead first.
We got a choppy feed. Hopefully we get
Peters
some
with Global News. Happy stampeding. Got a question just about data centers in general. I know this is about the power for them, but I think when people hear the term data centers, there's a lot of fear of the unknown. own concern, environmental impacts, water reliability, in addition to the electricity that you've talked about today, and the overall economic impact. A lot of people wonder if it's worth it. Can you just maybe outline some of the conversations you've had, if you've had them with concerned citizens, about what this can do for our province as a whole, and the life that they're used to is going to be maintained while this happens?
Yeah, I had a chance actually to go to Olds and have a town hall where I heard from residents about their concerns. And one of the big issues that they raised was about the power source, so a large natural gas power source, being located close to residential properties. So one of the things that I would say about this project being located in Sturgeon County, it's in an area in the industrial heartland that has been well accepted by the community for over 40 years for industrial development. I think the closest home is some kilometers away from where this natural gas plant is going to be. And so I think we have to be mindful of that as we're going through and looking at our electricity policy and some of the guidance that we'll have to give to AI data centers as they're doing this build your own power approach. We want to make sure that those concerns of the local area residents are addressed and there's an appropriate distance between homes. The second issue and I think a lot of it comes from looking at jurisdictions that did have some difficulties in managing power prices. When we set out on developing our policy, we were very clear with the industry that we only had a certain amount of power available for data centers. Actually, it's thanks to Connecticut that our power prices have come down, because when Cascades came on, that also gave us a little bit of a buffer on our main power grid. But we were able to have about 1,200 megawatts that we felt could help seed additional AI data centers. But in telling them that, it meant that if you want more, you're going to have to build it yourself. And so I think that this result today is a culmination of that policy, is that there's a recognition that if you want to grow, building your own power, if you build extra and can sell some to the grid, that also will help reduce costs to consumers, and it will also help to defray some of the costs on the transmission lines. So we've learned from what we've seen in other jurisdictions, and so we're wanting to put this forward as a net positive for the community. We know that depending on gas prices, this project alone will generate between 15 and 35 million a year every year in new royalties, not to mention all of the personal income taxes that are generated from the construction job growth, as well as the ongoing high-skilled jobs that are being employed there. And we hope to be able to see more opportunities for that kind of value proposition.
A bit of a different subject. This is day 2 of the energy rebate program. The portal opening up yesterday. I went down to a seniors center this afternoon and spoke to a lot of people where this $100 will really make a difference for them, and they were appreciative of that, but they were having a lot of trouble with the online portion, getting into the portal. I know there were some glitches, but also it can be very confusing for some who might not be the most tech savvy. Obviously, one of your predecessors did a similar thing a couple of years ago, and he sent out checks, and everyone knows how to cash a check for the most part. Can you just talk about this approach and how people can maybe mitigate some of the challenges they might face while trying to get them done?
I mean, we did this approach when we needed to give affordability payments during the height of the inflation crisis, and so we had set up something quite similar where people could go online so that they could get the deposit directly in their account. And there's a couple reasons why we did that, is that if we end up with another kind of surplus associated with the higher WTI. I don't know if that will be the case this next quarter. This may be the same kind of approach that we'd want to take. So having been signed up, it would allow for this to happen in future should we choose to do that. But also it allows for us to do automatic deposits for our most vulnerable. So those who are on AISH and income supports and seniors benefit, they already have automatic deposits, so we're not going to make them go through. We'll just deposit this money in their account so that they have it. What we found with the affordability payments last time is that many of the care workers associated with those who are in long-term care were able to help sign people up, and so we have a long window. I think it's until September that people have to get signed up. There definitely were glitches, and I know that it's very frustrating for those who went on, but I think it also shows that when you get a large number of people going on at once, sometimes it does end up stressing the system. But I've looked into that with my tech and innovation minister as well as with my finance minister. And if you haven't gotten on, do try again, because we're working on trying to resolve some of those glitches. And if you have a care worker or some family member who can help navigate through the portal, that also might be a way to be able to address it.
Hey, Tim Brooks, CTV. I just want to go back to this data center thing. Have you specifically heard from constituents who have asked the province to build more data centers or be involved with that infrastructure?
Well, we normally, when businesses are making a decision, an investment decision, they would normally come that way. And so we have a concierge service where anyone who's expressed an interest in establishing a data center, we try to pair them up with companies that can do what Pembina and Connecticut are able to do, build the power and then build the gas to get it there. But the demand that comes from individuals is, we see it every day. If you're using ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, if you're creating an image or a video, if your doctor is using AI Scribe, if you're an agricultural producer using precision application of pesticides or fertilizers, there's all kinds of applications for AI, which is what has led to this demand for data centers. And so we're responding to that.
My follow-up, I'll see you in a couple hours, and I might ask this again, but...
I might answer you in a couple hours, Tim.
I know what answer I'm going to give right now, actually. Tanker ban's still in place. There's the Robertsport expansion that's been announced. Is it safe to say that your government's backing off a northern route and just wants to do the pipeline south?
I would say it's fair to say that the federal government and Alberta and the Pathways group are going to have a pretty exciting announcement at 6 o'clock today. And so the Canada and Alberta have come to an agreement that is mutually satisfactory. And so you'll hear a bit more about that later today.
We're going to hear a bit more about that. This is a really good announcement. Premier Danielle Smith, there's a reason why she's been, Alberta is a powerhouse province, but she is a very good political operator. She's really good. Bringing this new thing with this oil and not contending with BC, you know what I mean, and this is a really good deal. This is some pretty good plans going forward for Alberta. So it's a pretty good day for Canada. We've got some pretty good wins today, and there's another announcement in 15 minutes. But that's all we have, folks. Like.